If you remember, the very first Sharia standard, and AAOIFI, number 1, is about trading in currencies. Now, in this hadith, which is narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiallahu anhu, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned 6 commodities, out of which 2 are basically dhahab and dhahab. Gold versus gold. He also mentioned in similar narration other 4 commodities. So in this we only have dhahab and dhahab, meaning gold versus gold, and wariq bil wariq, meaning silver for silver. So what this hadith is saying is that do not sell gold for gold unless for equal quantity. Also, do not sell silver for silver unless for equal quantity. Then also he is mentioning la tabi'u minha ghaiban binajizin, meaning that do not sell spot for deferred. So based on this hadith, there are few rulings for exchanging currencies. If the currencies, now first of all, why we derive the rule of currencies from this hadith, which is particularly for gold and silver, because gold and silver are considered currencies by nature, and all other currencies up to the modern world, like paper currencies, virtual currencies, in today's world, cryptocurrencies, if those are considered currencies, will also have similar ruling of gold and silver. Now, the summary of this ruling is that if the currencies are of same type, like gold and gold, or silver, silver, dollar, US dollar, US dollar, Saudi riyal, if those are of same types, in today's world, each international currency will be considered as different type. Now, if these are of same type, then it has to fulfill 2 conditions. One is to be equal in quantity. So like 100 grams of gold for 100 grams of gold, even though the quality is bit different, but the quantity still must be the same. Unless if it is exchanged with a different type, like gold for silver, or silver for US dollar, or US dollar for Saudi riyal. In that case, the quantity could be different. Like $1 could be exchanged, let's say, for 3 or 2 riyals, for example, no issue. But if it is for US dollar for US dollar, or Canadian dollar for Canadian dollar, then it has to be exactly same amount. This is called riba al-fadl. If we don't follow this, then there will be a riba al-fadl coming into the picture, which is a prohibition. Now, if it is either a same type or a different type, there is also a second condition. This is common for all currencies exchange, which is it has to be on spot. It cannot be deferred. So we cannot purchase gold on a deferred price, deferred payment basis. We cannot purchase currency at a deferred payment basis. So all the international currency exchanges or forex transactions, for example, has to follow the same rule. Hence, we will see futures, forward, options in currencies are not allowed. Anything that has representation of currencies, like even if you will find later on under the Sharia standard of financial papers, for example, you will see that if a stock, right, a shares, it is representing cash or debt, then it will also have to follow the rules of this trading in currencies. In Arabic, we call bay'u sarf. So meaning that, let's say a company which has the maximum amount, of course, it has to be 70% or more, cash or something equivalent to cash, right? So in that case, we have to deal with that stock similar to the ruling of sarf or trading in currencies. Meaning that if face value of the stock is $10, we can only exchange it at $10. We cannot exchange it for more or less because it is taking the rule of currencies. So this ruling of trading in currency will come over and over again in many other Sharia standards, many other clauses. If something is considered as a currency because it is a currency, or the things that it represent, most of it are currencies, gold, silver, cash, etc., then it has to be number 1 on a spot. And it is, if it is exchanged to a similar nature of money, then it has to be on similar quantity as well. Like as I mentioned, if the face value of 10, then we cannot exchange it without the par value. Same thing for sukuk as well. If the sukuk doesn't have a representation of most intangible assets, like 70% or more, 30% or more tangible assets is not there. So meaning the cash or liquid money is 70% or even more. So in that case, we still have to adhere to the rule of sarf, meaning that it cannot be traded without the par value. It can only be transferred without any additional value being made. So I hope this is very clear, because this is a very short Sharia standard, but the rulings are applied again and again in many other Sharia standards in many other cases. But if you understand the gist, then you can apply anywhere and everywhere it should be applied to. So the spot exchange or equal value should be observed in the exchange of same currency. Binding bilateral promise is not allowed. So when somebody could say, okay, we will not transact in forward or futures transactions for currencies exchange. Rather, we will have promises. Now the promises, there is a Sharia standard on al-wa'd wal-mu'ada, unilateral promise and bilateral promise, which is not part of the curriculum for CSAA, I believe, within the 48 Sharia standards, no. However, if you read that, you can see that when the promises are binding and bilateral, then it resembles a contract. Now, in case of currency, if we are making a bilateral binding promise and we are saying that it resembles a contract, now the question would be, on what is the contract? The contract is on currencies which will not be paid on a spot. It will be paid in a future date based on the promise, right? So this is the reason why it will not be considered Sharia compliant. Similarly, a debt may be settled with any other currency if it is the exchange portion of is fully settled on spot and according to the market rate. So in some cases, we may have debts to be settled against a different currency. Maybe the debt was on, let's say, Saudi Riyal, but on the date of settlement, the debtor is asking, can I pay, let's say, in Australian dollar or Malaysian ringgit? The creditor is saying, yes, you can. So what they need to do is they need to take the exchange rate or market rate of that date on the day of the settlement. Why is it this necessary? Because what is happening here is that the debt is being converted to another currency during that time. Hence, we need to exchange that, make that conversion happen on that day itself. And we only can do that by applying the exchange rate of that day. In other words, something that is agreed upon right on that day, not pre-agreed. If it was pre-agreed, then it differs, it makes it Sharia non-compliant, because it will be considered that the conversion happened already at the previous time. So if you go through the Sharia standard now, you'll find few other clauses, but those are the main gist that we have discussed. So we'll go to another Sharia standard now, okay? This session was brought to you by TAIF and Adl. If you have benefited from it, please share in your social media platforms about both the entities and share the word, spread the word. Jazakumullah khairan.